Version. The following reading of Psalm 116 is from the recently published First Nations version of the Psalms in Book of Proverbs. This version translates the original Hebrew using terms and metaphors appropriate to an indigenous cultural perspective. As you listen, may your hearts receive these words as a blessing. I love grandfather, for he hears my voice when I cry out to him. Because he bends his ear down low to hear me, I will send my voice to him all my days. The ropes of death wrapped around me, and the cords of the dark underworld entangled me. I came face to face with trouble and sorrow. Then I called out to grandfather by his name. Grandfather, I beg of you, come now and rescue me. Grandfather is tender-hearted and good. Yes, our Great Spirit is kind and merciful. Grandfather watches over those with the faith of a child. When I was small and low, he lifted me high. My heart, return to your place of harmony, for grandfather has been big-hearted toward you. You have snatched my life from the jaws of death, my eyes from tears, and kept my feet from stumbling. So now I will walk with grandfather on his good road in the land of the living.
Well, in case you hadn't noticed, Thanksgiving is this week. Excited? Apprehensive? Have you been fasting? Well, giving thanks and expressing gratitude isn't just a once-a-year thing. But in fact, it's a well-nigh universal human practice. Human beings all over the world have various things they do to express gratitude. The psalmist talks about all the things that has happened in their life, the struggles, the trials they went through. But they recognized in the midst of that a source of strength, a source of hope that carried them through. And so they decide to come into the temple with gratitude, with singing praises, with maybe even dancing. In Japan, there is the practice of gasho, and of saying itadakimasu before meals. And what this reflects, this gesture of bringing the hands together, symbolizes respect, acknowledging the worth of another being. It expresses unity, symbolizing the merging of oneself and another. It expresses also gratitude, offering thanks for life, food, teachings, or kindness. It also expresses mindfulness, that practice of centering and being present to another person, being present to the food that you're about to receive. And itadakimasu, a Japanese phrase, translates literally to humbly receive. It's often said before eating a meal. And the phrase is used as a way of showing gratitude and respect for everyone and everything, every being that made the meal in front of you possible. It's meant to honor all, from the natural elements that supplied the ingredients the people who grew the produce to the ones who prepared and cooked the meal. So that's Japan. And repeatedly across Native American cultures, the practice is shared about giving thanks before a hunt for the life of the animal that they're going to hunt and kill for food. And then, upon killing the animal, they give thanks again for the self-giving of that animal so that the human community may continue on. So, central to all these, I mean, you could probably add all sorts of other cultural practices. But central to all of these worldwide practices is the recognition that all of life, the world, and all life on it is actually a gift. All of life is one elaborate, interconnected, mutual exchange of gifts. Take a breath in. You're receiving the gift of plants. Breathe out. You're returning that gift to plants. You're connected. We're connected. Plants and animals exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. Clouds give water to the land, and the land gives water back to the skies after having given water to animals and plants that drink it in and breathe it out. Everything we have and everything that we are comes to us from beings and things outside of us. And so the natural, inevitable, and absolutely necessary response to all this constant giftedness is gratitude. Gratitude. Now, gratitude and grace are connected words. In Greek, it's charis. They're both from charis, which means a gift, as in charisma, that a person who has charisma is gifted in something. That's from the Greek, charism. But you find the same word in communion. We call it the Eucharist, which is the good grace, the good gratitude, the giving of thanks. Eucharis. Eucharis. That comes over into Latin with gratus, which forms the basis for both the word grace, gratia, that means gift. Grace is gift. And gratia, gratitude. The words go together. They're two wings on the same bird. Grace and gratitude. Now, every single indigenous Native American teaching, presentation, and ceremony that I've encountered across my life acknowledges this interconnectedness, this connection between the giftedness of all life and expressing the true, deep gratitude for it. Robin Wall Kimmerer, in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, calls this a gift economy based in reciprocal relations. the gift of picking wild strawberries. And if you've ever gone wild strawberry picking, you know it's a gift, right? That the land gives us. She says, what I mean, of course, is that our human relationship with strawberries is transformed by our choice of perspective. It is human perception that makes the world a gift. When we view the world this way, strawberries and humans alike are transformed. The relationship of gratitude and reciprocity thus developed can increase the evolutionary fitness of both plant and animal. A species and a culture that treat the natural world with respect and reciprocity will surely pass on genes to ensuing generations with a higher frequency than the people who destroy it. The stories we choose to shape our behaviors have adaptive consequences. And she goes on, she quotes Lewis Hyde. She says, he's made extensive studies of gift economies. He finds that, quote, objects will remain plentiful because they are treated as gifts. A gift relationship with nature is a formal give and take that acknowledges our participation in and dependence upon natural increase. We tend to respond to nature as a part of ourselves, then, not as a stranger or alien available for exploitation. Gift exchange is the commerce of choice, for it is commerce that harmonizes with or participates in the process of nature's increase. I like her framing of the possibility and the practice of a gift economy as opposed to a commodity economy. You know what a commodity economy is, don't you? It's what we have here in the United States, in fact, across most of the world, where things are, well, things. Commodities to be exchanged. People are commodities to be bossed around or consumed, and oh, if you lose a few people because your factory is focused on production rather than upon safety, there's always somebody else there. A gift economy instead looks at each person, each being, each thing as a gift, and you enter into reciprocal relationship. Gratitude expresses this recognition. So how might we change our way from walking a commodity-consuming path to a path of gratitude and grace? When Susan and I were visiting our granddaughter and her parents, you noticed the order in which I said that, right? Oh yeah, Betsy, again, we're coming to visit you too, but we're kind of focused on Ellie, and that is an expression of gratitude and grace, and speaking of gifts. But we had the opportunity to, and they live in central Michigan. And if you think of Michigan as being, part of it as being a glove, a mitten, they live right there, right in the center. And about 10 miles away from where they live in Alma is a town called Mount Pleasant. And there in Mount Pleasant is the Zeeluwing Cultural Museum, which is the cultural museum of the Anishinaabe people, which is the larger group that has Saginaw, Potawatomi, I'm blanking now, 2 or 3 other tribal groups. And we spent a couple hours in their museum learning about their history, learning about their culture, learning about their way of being in the world. And they expressed, throughout their various exhibits, the reason for doing this was actually to offer their way of life, their understanding of the reciprocal relationships between the natural world and the human world, and between human beings, different cultures, as being gifts. And so they essentially gave this cultural institute as a gift for people to come and receive and understand their history, as fraught as it has been the past 500 years. But also to say we're still here. This is a critical time in human history. And we have some gifts to offer you that we would like you to consider using to make the world a better place, to enter into deeper relationships with one another and with the natural world. And so as you go through their exhibit, at the very end, they talk about what they call the gifts of the 7 grandfathers, which were basically ways to live with integrity and the knowledge of reciprocal relationships. Looking on the 7 Generations website comes this description. The 7 grandfather teachings are a set of Anishinaabe guiding principles passed down from generation to generation to guide the Anishinaabe in living a good life in peace and without conflict. Many indigenous organizations and communities have adapted the 7 grandfather teachings as a moral stepping stone and a cultural foundation. Communities have adapted the teachings to suit their community values. Despite where the teachings originate, they share the same concepts of abiding by moral respect for all living beings. The 7 grandfather teachings are among the most widely shared Anishinaabe principles because they're relatable and encompass the kind of morals that humanity can inspire to live by. They offer ways to enrich one's life while existing in peace and harmony with all creation. So that's their explanation. Well, I read this and I looked at the principles there that were left literally at the exit. And I was touched deeply by, indeed, the simplicity, and wondered what would it be like if we adopted these. They specifically said, we offer these as gifts to the world. And so I received them as a gift. And sharing them with you at this time, as we think about ways of living in grace and gratitude. So the 7 gifts. The first one is respect. And they say it means to go easy on one another and all of creation. Respect culturally is represented by the buffalo. The buffalo gives every part of his being to sustain the human way of living. The buffalo respects the balance and needs of others. So the first gift, respect. The second is love. And by the way, if you look at it online, the order may be different. It doesn't matter what the order is because you take them all together. It's a circle. So, love. Unconditional love between one another, including all of creation. Humans and non-humans is what this is about. And the eagle represents love because he has the strength to carry all of the teachings. The third is truth. And they describe this as being to speak only to the extent that we have lived or experienced. Truth is represented by the turtle, as the turtle was here during the creation of earth and carries the teachings of life on his back. Bravery. To live with a solid and strong heart. Bravery is represented by the bear. The mother bear has the courage and strength to face her fears and challenges while protecting her young. To face whatever life throws us with a solid, strong heart is bravery. Wisdom. To live with a broad vision of how all things connect together. And the beaver represents wisdom because he uses his natural gift by altering the environment for his family's survival. Generosity. This is to practice our interrelatedness by passing along things that come to us to others who need them. In other words, things don't remain just with us. They may tarry for a while, but then someone else may need it. And so you pass it on. This is represented in giveaways. If you've ever been to a native giveaway, that's what they're doing. They're recognizing the connectedness and passing the gifts on. And then finally, humility.
Wait, what animal is generosity?
I could not find that described. So, yeah. You can think of what animal you think might represent generosity.
About the Homo sapien.
I think we're the ones that need to practice it. Well, and then finally, humility. To think of oneself properly in the context of all our relations and everything that sustains us. And humility here is represented by the wolf. Because the wolf lives for his pack. And the ultimate shame is to be an outcast. So these are the 7 gifts. And we have started by talking with one another about what we are grateful for. I would invite you to continue this conversation for the next few minutes with one another, looking at the questions in your bulletin. Respect. How can I manifest respect in my life towards other people and the earth and other beings on earth? Or love. I would suggest just picking one or two. But go home and reflect on these. Love. How can I love myself as well as love other persons and beings on earth? Truth. How will living according to truth guide my actions and interactions with others? Bravery. What will help me hold firm thoughts and stand strongly even when I don't know what will happen? Wisdom. How can I listen deeply and carefully to others to discern correctly what they are saying? Generosity. How will I practice generosity in passing along the things that have come to me so that all have enough and all can benefit? And finally, humility. How can I walk with other persons so we walk together as brothers and sisters on the same level? Take a few moments and reflect on these to one another. Continue the conversations that you started with.